Probably met Dave Russell.
I know Dave Russell.
It's been a while. Senator Brown.
See you again.
Yeah,
Alan Davis?
the senator's got a limited amount of time, so
We'll do what we need to do.
jump in. Just stick your mic in there whenever you ask.
Don't spit it or anything.
No, wouldn't do that.
Senator, where are we really at on the Farm Bill? I know
Let me ask one question. The broadcast stuff will be run, just so I understand timing, today, tomorrow, when?
Tomorrow morning for me.
So I know, because I say I talked to Stabenow yesterday.
Right.
I talked to Stabenow an hour ago, but I'll say yesterday.
Yeah, that's
fair enough.
He'll run this weekend, so how about
Okay, I'll just talk to
Thursday?
Stabenow on
On
Thursday.
Thursday.
Okay, sorry.
Senator Brown is an active farmer, as well as working and doing some journalism. Where are we really at on the Farm Bill? I know you've touched on it a little bit, and bring us, really up to speed on that.
A week ago, I was concerned that we may not be able to get a farm bill passed. I'm more optimistic after talking to Chairwoman Stabenow on Thursday afternoon, that things look like they're coming together. We passed with overwhelming bipartisan vote in the Senate a couple of times in 2012 and then this fall. And the question is getting the House on board. Most of the farm groups, almost all of them, support something close to the Senate version, planning to the market rather than to the farm program, doing nutrition in a way that deals with fraud issues, but most importantly, provides for people, low-income, disabled people, seniors, people working, children and families, people making $9 and $10 an hour, and that's going to matter. And I think it looks like we're fairly close to an agreement, and I'm optimistic.
Have you got a number on what that looks like for the food stamp side of things?
Don't know yet. That's still unclear. There's not full agreement yet. I think the Title I, there's agreement on a lot of the conservation enforcement, which is really important, and Farm Bureau and lots of individual members have come to me on that, on energy issues, on conservation overall, on rural development. All those were a little bit easier to agree on, and it looks like the Senate version in most of those issues is what's going to drive this. And I think the reason the Senate version is most likely to pass is because we put together a bipartisan coalition on the Ag Committee with my legislation on ending direct payments to the farmers really that weren't planting versus strengthening the safety net. That was language a Republican from South Dakota and I wrote. That looks pretty good, not finalized yet, but I think that we had this good bipartisan coalition in the Senate has helped drive that in the House, which had a more kind of partisan flavor to it, and I'm confident if it gets to the floor of both houses that we'll pass it.
Senator, is the president ready for something to get done?
The president wants a farm bill. He said that. I talked to the White House, to the president's chief of staff this past week. He wants us to move on. He knows it's a jobs bill. I mean, passing a good farm bill, 1 out of 7 jobs in our state is tied to food and agriculture, and passing a farm bill is good for the economic prosperity of the state. When farmers do well, the chances are the whole economy is going to do well. And particularly one of the things that I talked about at the at the OARDC, the Ag Research Station in Worcester, is bio-based agriculture and manufacturing, and it lets us blend what Ohio's good at. We're good at, you create wealth by making it, mining it, or growing it, and you can make it and grow it and put it together, manufacturing with bio-based kind of soy printing and other things. Worcester leads the country and maybe the world in this kind of research. We want to give farmers and small business people that are starting these manufacturing operations a chance to commercialize their research and sell more more soybeans and corn and other things, and help hire people to put this stuff together and assemble it.
Senator, also, while we're talking about, you mentioned about the safety net and the crop insurance. How is that going to fit in all this and with the Farm Bill the way it stands right now?
We've extended the safety net. Historically has been mostly corn and soybeans. We are extending a safety net to commodities so that there's no reason in my mind it should be only limited to corn and soybeans and grains. But we've also strengthened it in terms of taking some of the money we saved from eliminating the direct payments into strengthening the safety net. I'm optimistic that we can keep that from the Senate version of the bill. It will help. We remember just a year and a half ago, the drought in swaths of Ohio Corn went from what some farmers get 170 bushels an acre, 180, was down to 50 and 60 and 80 in some areas. Soybean acreage, soybean yields were down too. That's why you need a safety net. I mean, things got better a summer ago, but you never know, and that's why it's so important if prices are persistently low or if yields are low for a protracted period, that safety net's there for our farmers.
What are you hearing on the RFS when you're looking at corn prices that are almost $3 in Ohio, lower than they were a year ago? Are you getting any feedback from your position on whether the EPA is just floating a balloon out here and really needed to have a comment period, and that was one way to get it?
I don't know. I do know that I want to make sure the legislature doesn't mess with what the law is now, because I think one of the most important things for government to do or not do is help with the predictability of and understanding people know what's going to, as much as you can in a complicated world, that you can predict in terms of planting, in terms of manufacturing, in terms of producing electricity. And when the legislature changes a law that looked like it was permanent, that doesn't help anybody. And I'd say the same for the EPA, to make sure that, because farmers are looking ahead, utility companies should be looking ahead, manufacturers are looking ahead, what is going to be our mix of power generation, and don't change the rules, even though some utility companies might want to. Don't change the rules in the middle of the game. But I just don't know precisely on the EPA to answer your question more directly.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Thank you, folks. Good to see you all.
Thank you very much.
I forget how much ag media there is. Talk to a lot of you individually, but see all together. My gosh, you show up at